Hey there, Jess here from jewelrytutorialhq.com. In this video today, I'm going to show you how to make a cross pendant or keychain using leather. This project is great for guys and girls, and this is even something that can be done in Sunday school and or for Easter. I'll have a complete list of tools and supplies that I used in the description below the video. So I'm starting with a wide strip of leather. This is about 1 centimeter wide, which is the equivalent of about 3/8 of an inch. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that the end I'm starting with is nice and straight across, and then I'm going to cut a strip that is 5 inches long. Again, making sure to cut that straight across. Then I'm going to cut a second strip of leather at 3.5 inches long. And going back to the 5-inch piece of leather, the longer piece, I'm going to measure 1 5/8 inches down, which is about 4 centimeters, and I'm going to make a mark using a Sharpie at that point. If you're using a leather that has an obvious front or back, be sure to make this mark on the back side of the leather. For glue, you have a couple of options. I'm going to use this 527 multi-purpose cement. Another option is this Barge all-purpose cement. These two should work pretty much the same way. And another option, this is what I usually use to glue leather, is Fabrifix. This works really well. Mine just happens to be dried out. So I'm going to use this 527. I'm going to use a toothpick to apply it. And first I'm going to apply on the short side of the mark that we made, just above it, about 1 centimeter wide, a little bit more. And then I'm going to do the same on the end. So I'm skipping a little spot in the middle there, because when we fold this over, I want to create a loop. So now we need to let this dry for about 30 seconds to a minute until the glue becomes a little bit tacky. So while I'm waiting for that, I'm going to use the shorter piece, the cross piece. I'm going to line it up with that original line, make a mark on the other side so that we can know where our cross piece is going to go. Then I'm going to apply a little bit more adhesive below that line we just made, a little bit of a wider section, skip a little bit in the middle, and apply some at the end as well. For this type of adhesive, it's important to apply to both surfaces that you're going to be sticking together. And before you stick them together, you want the glue to get a little bit tacky so that it will form a permanent bond. So I'm just going to check my measurements on the cross piece. What we're going to be doing is folding this around to the back. So I want to make sure that the sides are pretty close to even and that they're going to meet in the middle at the back. So I'm just going to double check with my ruler. Got about 4 centimeters on one side and just about 4 centimeters on the other. So I'm going to go ahead and mark here on either side of the vertical piece. And now that my adhesive is a little bit tacky, I can fold the ends over up to the lines that we made. And I'm just going to use a mini clothespin to hold this together on this end. A regular size one would do just fine too. In fact, I've got a larger one that I'm going to use on this side. And we need to leave this to cure for at least 20 minutes. So in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and punch my holes in my cross piece. So I'm just using this marker to make 4 circles where I want my holes to be. And they're spaced evenly inside the square. And the tool that I'm using is a 1.8 millimeter punch. This is actually a metal punch, but it happens to work really well for this leather, so that's what I'm using. So I'm just going to go around and punch through each of these dots. This is where our stitches are going to go. And when I've done that, I'm just using an awl, which is a sharp tapered tool, to go back through the holes from the front to kind of clean up that messy look. You could, of course, also use the stitching needle that you're going to use for that step. Once you're sure that the glue has cured properly, you can remove the clothespins, and then we can use the piece we just punched the holes in as a template to punch holes in this second piece. So I'm lining this up where the marks are in line with the leather strip beneath it, and I'm just punching through those holes so that I can punch exactly the same spot on the other piece of leather. I'm going to thread my needle. This is a leather stitching needle, and the cord I'm using is a 0.8 millimeter waxed nylon cord, which is great for stitching leather. And for this particular cord, to make sure that it doesn't pull through the hole, I'm going to make a triple knot on the end. So I do that by starting what's going to be a regular knot and then pulling the tail end back through the loop 2 more times. and then pulling that tight. Okay, so I'm going to take the cross piece and make sure that the lines are facing down, and I'm going to place it on top of the other piece so the holes and the marks are lined up. And I'm going to thread the needle through the back, starting with the bottom right hand hole. And then I'm going to turn it to the front and go through the top right hole so we get a diagonal stitch across the front. Flip the piece around, and I'm going to go back through that same hole that I started with. Just move this knot out of the way. And again through the top right hole at the front, so I've got a double stitch. And I just want to make sure these stitches are side by side. Okay, so flip around to the back. Now we go straight down to the bottom left hole and go through and crisscross over to the top left on the front, and then repeat that one more time. So flipping back to the back, going through the bottom left hole, and now on the front through the top left. And making sure those stitches are side by side. Now we can finish off. I usually do this by going back up through the crisscross at the back with the needle. And before I pull that completely tight, I'm going to leave a little bit of a loop, and I'm going to use the needle to go up through that loop 2 or 3 times to knot off this end. And to make sure the knot gets placed right up against the leather, I'm using it all to hold the knot in place as I pull the tail, pull it tight, and then slide the awl out. The awl is a great tool for this because it's got a taper at the end, so if you have something similar, that would work too. And then I'm going to trim the ends of the cord as close as I can. Now to finish this off, I want to glue down the ends of the cross piece over this knot, so I'm placing a little bit of this adhesive over the stitches as well as on the ends of the cross piece, and then a little bit just here so that I have a little bit more surface area for the sides to stick to. When the glue is tacky after about 20-30 seconds, fold the ends over to meet in the middle. And just double check to make sure that the sides are still even. And then I'm going to clamp these so that they will cure in place. I'm going to use a large clothespin this time. And then I'm going to come back in with these mini clothespins to squeeze the sides together as well, because I want those edges to really stick together. So now I'm going to leave this to cure at least 20-30 minutes. When that's done, you can remove the clothespins and you should have a really sturdy leather piece. Now, since you've got this loop on the top, you could use this as a pendant, thread it on a chain or some leather cord, but I'm just going to make this into a key ring. Now, I would love to see how yours turned out. Tag me on Instagram at Jewelry Tutorial HQ, and you can find lots more fun, free jewelry tutorials at jewelrytutorialhq.com. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.